If you're anything like me, there are a lot of questions in life that you would love to know the answer to. But there are some questions that, well, we'd give just about everything to know the answer to. And the question we're going to talk about in this episode of Message in Minutes, well, it falls right into that second category, particularly when we're suffering or when we're struggling. If you know someone asking this question, they're probably going to find this video helpful, so you might want to share it with them. Now, let me go ahead and give you the question. How do you maintain hope in a hopelessly broken world? Now, you have wondered this at times, haven't you? I have too. This is a deeply personal question. It's really an emotional one. Some of you are struggling through a challenging season right now, and just asking this question brings tears to your eyes, or it stirs up frustration in your heart, because this is a tension you live in every day right now. If you've ever put your hope in something or somebody who let you down, and your world came crashing down, well, you also know what I'm talking about. If you've ever stood in an altar and you promised before God to love somebody until death do you part, only they decided not to keep their promise, well, you know why this question's so relevant too. If you've ever been promised something at work and you did your part, you went the extra mile only for the boss to not keep his word or her word, well, you know what I'm talking about. If you had unusual athletic ability and all your hope was in where that was going to take you and the doors it was going to open, and then you had an injury that cost you the scholarship or the opportunity or the season, well, you know the hopelessness of feeling like there is no hope in your broken world. If you've had dreams for your kid and your hope was in them being who you knew they could be or achieving what you knew they could achieve, only to watch them make choices where they threw away their chances, well, you know the tension of trying to find hope in a hopelessly broken world. If you've ever gone through something that left you wondering, what is the point? What's the point of doing the right thing? What's the point of treating people well? What's the point of giving my best? What's the point of working hard? What is the point of trying again? Well, you just bumped into this tension. How do you maintain hope in a hopelessly broken world? So for the next few minutes, we're going to try and answer that question. This is the third and final episode of our series, When the World Breaks. And what I want to do today is start by explaining what hope looks like. I want you to think of it this way. Hope is like a ladder leaning against a wall. Now, some of us lean into our abilities to give us what we need. Some of us lean into a relationship to provide what we're looking for. Some of us lean into financial security or our looks or our athleticism or our youth or our career success or the ability to do well in school to deliver what we most want in life. But we all go lean our ladder against something. But most of us go through life unaware that we've actually done that until this happens, until the wall crumbles. And that's when we begin to feel hopeless. We're not going to have kids when we thought we would have kids. Or you're thinking, I'm going to be 30 and still single. I'm not going to be able to retire when I thought I'd be able to retire. Or maybe you're thinking, I've achieved everything I've spent my life chasing, and it doesn't feel as good as I thought it would feel. Or I thought my marriage would be saved, but it's not going to be saved. See, hopelessness is nothing more than the realization that the wall that I've leaned my ladder against isn't holding me up like I thought it would. It is not meeting my expectations. And that's when we start looking for hope. So what do you do when the wall crumbles? How do you maintain hope in a hopelessly broken world? Well, Paul, the most influential follower of Jesus in all the first century, he had something really unique to say about this. But before I show you what he said, I want to remind you that Paul didn't live a charmed life. He was up close and personal with life not going well. At different points and different times, Paul was unjustly beaten. He was pelted with rocks. He was shipwrecked. He was whipped and flogged. He was left cold, left hungry, betrayed by friends. In other words, if anybody should have felt hopeless, it was this guy. No matter what good he did, he seemed to suffer for it. So when Paul gives us advice on how to maintain hope in a hopelessly broken world, he is writing from lived experience. And I think he's worth listening to. Now, what he writes that I'm about to share with you, it sounds a bit confusing, so I'm going to do my best to make it simple to understand, okay? In Romans 8, he writes this starting in verse 20. He said, "For the creation was subjected to frustration, not by its own choice, but by the will of the one who subjected it." Now, Paul's referring here to what happened when human beings chose to sin. He says, we messed up the world. We invited frustration into the world because nothing in creation works now just the way God intended it to work. So to understand that, you need to understand how God views sin. We have a tendency to see sin as this incident. It's a thing we do. Paul thought of sin as a disease. He talked about it like it was toxic, which means when it entered the world, it infected and damaged everything. And Paul says it was fatal to everything that it touched. So he's going, whenever you're frustrated, whenever you feel hopeless, you need to understand it's because of sin. It is a side effect of sin because sin is running its course in this world. And then he gives us more detail. He says, okay, this all happened in hope that the creation itself will be liberated from its bondage to decay and brought into the freedom and glory of the children of God. So Paul says, okay, everything's broken right now, but one day in the future, we have hope that all of this stuff that's broken, polluted, and corrupted by the disease of sin, we have hope it's going to be liberated, made new, and freed to reflect the glory of God in his original creation. Now, we're going to come back to that hope part, but the reality is that today, everything and everyone is in the bondage of decay that is brought on by sin. And this is a very real to some of you because, well, when you reach a certain age, you can look in the mirror and the effect of decay is staring right back at you, isn't it? Every new wrinkle, every new ache, every new pain is a sign of your decay. Now, as Americans, we work really hard at beating decay. We call it beating father time. So we eat right and we exercise. You should do that. We get surgeries. We get Botox shots. We take our vitamins. I could go on and on. But the reality is decay is undefeated. Sin runs its course and eventually gets all of us. I don't know that I'm very good at feel-good sermons, am I? But hang on just a minute. Hold with me. It's going to get better. But first, I just want to connect this dot for you. Let's go back to this first picture. The reason all of us have leaned our ladder against the wrong wall at some point in our lives is because we don't actually believe what Paul said is true. We believe we're going to be the exception, that we're different, that we can beat the odds, that we're certain if we get the right education, that education wall is going to hold us up. Or if we just stay looking young, or if we save enough, or if we work hard enough to develop our talent and build the right connections and stay healthy or marry well or make enough money or accomplish our goals or stay disciplined enough, whatever the thing is, that wall is going to hold our ladder and we're going to get to the top. So we tend to put our hope in things we control and things we create. And if we're a Christian, we take one more additional step. We just pray and ask God to make sure the wall that we have chosen to put our hope in will give us what we want. But the reality is we live in a hopelessly broken world, and as good as all of those things are that I just mentioned, they will all eventually decay. The wall's going to crumble. It's going to look like that. I don't care who you are. You will not beat the odds. If you put your ladder against the wall of anything in this world, this is where it's going to leave you. So what's the alternative? Well, listen to how Paul concludes this. He says, what then shall we say in response to these things? In other words, what do we need to say in response to all this frustration and hopelessness? What is there to say? Listen, if that's what you're feeling right now, lean in. This is about to get really good. Paul says, if God is for us, who can be against us? To which we might say, well, Paul, what do you mean if God is for us? If he was for me, none of this would have happened to me. Nope, Paul says, hold on. Everything that's creating the frustration and hopelessness in you, that is a result of the decaying effect of sin around you. But Paul says, I'm certain God is for you. You know why? Here's what Paul told us. He who did not spare his own son, but gave him up for us all, how will he not also, along with Jesus, graciously give us all things? Paul says you can be certain God is for you in the middle of all your uncertainty because he sent Jesus to die for you. What more proof do you need? What more evidence could he give you of his love for you? Why would you ever wonder if God's with you and going to guide you through the uncertainty and pain you're feeling now after what he's done for you? And then Paul leaves us with the big promise and the big finish. He says, for I am convinced that neither death nor life, neither angels nor demons, neither the present nor the future, nor any powers, neither height nor depth, nor anything else in all creation is going to be able to separate us from the love of God that is in Christ Jesus, our Lord. He's saying, look, you want to put your hope in something that's secure, something sin can't touch, decay can't touch, something that will never be shaken or taken from you. Paul says you can. You put your hope, you center your expectations on the love of God shown to you through Jesus. You are invited to lean your ladder against the love that God has for you. Love that's not earned because you got the scholarship, made the team, got the promotion, achieved your goals, or married into money. It's a love that's freely given and demonstrated to you through the death and the resurrection of Jesus. That's the wall that will never crumble. That is the hope that will never fade. That is how you maintain hope in a hopelessly broken world. So, where's your ladder been leaning? And is it time to move it? Listen, if you realize you need to move your ladder to lean against the love of God, I want to invite you to do that by giving you a prayer that we're going to pray together at the end of this, but you may need to make this part of your prayers every single day for a while. It's a prayer that King David prayed when he and the nation of Israel faced uncertainty from a military attack by an enemy. You find it in Psalm 33. David prayed, "May your unfailing love be with us, Lord, even as we put our hope in you." Let me say it again. May your unfailing love be with us, Lord, even as we put our hope in you. You may need to make this your prayer in the middle of all your uncertainty, just as a way to remind yourself that your ladder's not leaning against any wall but the love of God. And the good news is one day Jesus is going to free and liberate all creation from all the effects of sin. Everything's going to be made perfect again. But until then, you're going to live out his love. And you're going to get to live out his values in a world that doesn't honestly have many happily ever afters. But you're going to love people like crazy. When it doesn't make a difference, you're not going to lose hope because your hope wasn't there to begin with. And you're going to pray for your marriage to be restored. But if it doesn't, you're not going to lose hope because your ladder wasn't leaning against your spouse anyway. And you're going to serve selflessly, and you're going to give generously, and you're going to forgive freely, and you're going to chase the dreams and the plans and the goals that God puts in your heart. But if things don't go the way you want them to go, you are not going to lose hope because your hope is not in any of that. Your hope is in the love of God, demonstrated through Jesus on a cross 2,000 years ago. Putting your hope in him is how you never lose hope in a world that is hopelessly broken. So, if you need to lean your ladder against his love, whether it's the first time you've ever done this or you've just forgotten and you need to do it again, I want to invite you to tell him that now. To say, okay, may your unfailing love be with us, Lord, as I put my hope in you. It's time to move your ladder.